Cineverb.
Hello, welcome to Cineverb, a podcast discussing films in and out of the cinema. My name is Anthony Renteria, and today I'm joined by David.
Hello.
And Helen Albee Cottingham.
Hello.
And this week we are discussing the 2022 film Prey, directed by Dan Trachtenberg and written by Patrick Asen and Dan Trachtenberg. And it's starring Amber Midthunder, Dakota Beavers, and Dan DeLigro. And here's the synopsis. The origin story of the predator in the world of the Comanche Nation. 300 years ago, Naru, a skilled warrior, fights to protect her tribe against one of the first highly evolved predators to land on Earth. As always, we'll begin with a spoiler-free review, and then after our ratings, we will dive into a full spoiler discussion. Okay, so I was very excited about this film, hearing about it, and I immediately thought, well, Helen needs to watch this movie. So I wanted to start with you, Helen. What were your initial impressions of Prey?
Oh my gosh, I loved it.
Nice.
I was amped. It's continuing my theme of aliens and horses on this podcast.
That's true. Very true.
But yes, I wouldn't deign to call myself any kind of an expert. I did major in archaeology specifically on native peoples, but of the Southeast, the Comanche are in the West. So I'm not like an authority on Indians of the Great Plains, of native peoples of the Great Plains, but still looked pretty beautifully accurate to me. And my hackles are always a little bit up when native characters are portrayed. And wow, did this pass with flying colors in every way. I was smiling beginning to end. I had a great time. Everything looked beautiful. Everything seemed accurate. Everything seemed badass. Like, everybody was represented well. Like, wow, I loved it.
What were your initial impressions, David?
I saw Predator, like the original Predator, earlier this year for the first time. Like
Same.
I'd had it on my list and never got around to it. And I was like, it's not a good movie. Like, it's not a very well made
I
movie.
love
like,
it.
it's just like, it's so, I guess I wasn't prepared for the amount of cheesiness, but also just the first half is so boring. And I guess, I don't know what it is. I was just very underwhelmed by the whole thing. And it was way more like a comedy than it was like a horror movie or anything. Like, it was just funny because of the 80s cheese. But yeah, so this movie compared to the original Predator, actually, well, I was like really pleasantly surprised by this movie. Like, it's super, it's a really, I don't know how to describe it exactly, but it's a super efficient movie. It seems like a very professionally made movie. Like, there's nothing super special about how it's executed or the story, but it's all very like by the numbers. I don't know how to describe. I just feel like the director.
Yeah, it's concise.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's very minimal, concise, exactly what you want to see, exactly what the audience would want to see, exactly what you would expect to see. And gives you the exact feeling that you would expect from this movie, watching the trailers. So yeah, I mean, it was good. It was a pretty good movie. I thought it was going to be super campy. Like, that was I was sitting down to watch it to laugh at it. Like, I was, after seeing the original Predator and how silly the original Predator movie is, and then seeing the trailers and how silly the trailers for this movie looked, I was like, this is going to be a hilarious, like, so bad it's good movie. And I think a lot of people thought that. And that's why it's getting such good reviews. It's everyone's like pleasantly surprised by this movie. That should be like a really cheesy B movie. Like the original Predator, but
Awesome.
Yeah, those are my impressions.
So, Helen, you said you saw the original Predator? What is your opinions of that?
Yeah, I love the original Predator, but I like, those Arnie or action sci-fi movies. Like, they're just fun. They're just good popcorn fun. And I actually saw the Predators with Adrian Brody first.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
And I really liked that, but I'm just a sucker for sci-fi movies and action. Like, I like the campy sci-fi vibe. So I will forgive a lot of quote-unquote bad filmmaking for just a fun, good alien romp. And I found the Predators movie to be that. And then I recently watched Predator with Arnie and just smiled all the way through it, had a great time. like gave it like 4.5 stars on Letterboxd, and I was like, I know, I have the taste of an 11-year-old boy. Don't judge me. Like, it's a survival movie, and it's aliens, and it's fun. I just like to have fun. And so, yeah, I'm a fan of the franchise, I would say. And I love that this movie is told the way it is. And what a great way to cast lead, Indigenous actors and drop them into a fun action sci-fi franchise.
Yep.
Like, genius. Whoever had that idea, high five. And I think this is the best Predator movie I've seen. Out of those three.
It's way better than the original, in my opinion, yeah. So that's saying something.
Yeah, that is like the general consensus is this is like, oh crap, this is the best Predator movie ever, and no one was really expecting it or was aware of it because it was kind of like secretly dropped, it feels like, on Hulu. I was hoping it would come out theatrically, but I did some digging because I was like, why did Disney do this? Because, they bought 20th Century Fox, which this film was under that label, was in production during that transaction, or it was like there's some weird legalese like in the next couple years where, the reason is because 20th Century Fox had some sort of contract with HBO Max. So if a film comes out theatrically under the 20th Century Fox label, it has to go to HBO Max subscription service. Disney does not want that. So to get around that, their loophole is to drop it on Hulu or Disney Plus, and then it doesn't have to release to that.
Oh my
their
God.
competitors. Yeah, which I think is so dumb because I think this movie.
Yeah.
This movie would have played so much better in a theater, and a lot of critics that are raving about the film, they got to see it in a theater because I think it had like a very limited little drop in like LA, New York, and where all the critics are and live to go watch it. And I think it would have really improved my experience because I think I'm going to be the lower on the totem pole here of my takes because I was so excited and overhyped. I think I was kind of disappointed when I ended up watching it just because of some of the narrative stuff, some of the story structure stuff, some of the... it was mainly just the story stuff, which we'll have to get into in the spoilers, that I was just like, oh man, they're doing this, or oh man, why... Like I was expecting a little more survival movie, like Helen, you had said, and I feel like it kind of... I don't know. We'll have to get into it in the actual spoiler so I can speak on the details. But I was a little disappointed. Actually, well, I do like the minimalism that y'all talk about. Like the movie is just boom, 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 boom. Things are happening. There is no slowdown. But I do wish I do like that tempo. But I wish it would have focused more on these characters where I think there's moments where the film kind of becomes distracted by other elements that I found very unnecessary, or like, come on, we've seen this a million times. Like, I just want to be in this world with these people and their, plight with this predator alien. I was going to ask y'all before we wrap up this review, what did y'all think about the actual performances from Amber Midthunder and her brother Dakota Beavers?
I loved them. I don't have any complaints.
I just, that was one of the things that I laughed at in the trailer, the original trailer. I was like, oh man, this isn't going to be, because the brother character, and I think this is maybe his like first role ever in like a movie or anything, but like something about his voice or something, I didn't buy it at all. It really took me out of the movie in a weird way. Just I don't know what it is to me, it sounded like he had like a New Jersey accent or like a New York, New Jersey kind of accent. And it was really throwing me off. So I was like, ugh. And the fact that they're, it's already a suspension of disbelief that they're speaking English. I kind of wish they'd just committed and had the entire movie in Comanche or whatever.
In Comanche,
that honestly, that I would have preferred that. But with them speaking English, it would have been nice if they'd done like an accent or like something, or like spoken kind of oldish English that sounded, but like they were just speaking this completely just like modern English, and it just sounded, I don't know, it threw me out of the movie a little bit. I think the lead did fine. She did fine. I didn't notice any of the other actors, and her brother was just kind of cringy to me, but
Oh
Yeah.
man. You see that's a tight line to walk though, because yeah, like cuz that's something we brought up with the Northman with Robert Eggers, like how do you balance, because if you have them have some sort of dialect in English, that could be seen as like, you could be like diminishing them, like, oh, you're by making them have this affect or something with their voice or their accent, it could be seen as diminishing or making them something that they're not. So I think this was probably the safest thing to do, is just to have them speak
Yeah,
modern so we can understand it all.
definitely.
But I do also agree, like, but I think this is a studio thing. Like, I think it was the studio that just didn't want it to be full Comanche because, like Helen
Why
noted,
though?
like
Because
everything looks so authentic. I have to believe
yeah,
that the writers, directors, the performers, there was actually like a Comanche representative that was like the actual producer of the film, and she was like on
yeah,
set every day, all day, and like changing things as things were happening if she didn't find them suitable. So, and then there's also a Comanche dub on Hulu that I was actually
yeah. I heard
watching
that.
just a couple minutes ago, and it does play a lot better. But the lips don't sync up when it's a dub. But
Right.
but yeah, I do wish they would
But
have taken that
it's
bullet and just
also yeah, it's because also there's so little word. It's not like a dialogue heavy movie, so it would have been really
yeah
easy to. It wouldn't have been that much strain because it's a lot of the
yeah
movie is just nobody's talking, and then also the French characters speak French, so it's like there's already subtitles in the movie, so
yeah
it's and I get what I think the reason they did that is because we're supposed to relate to the Comanche characters, and we're supposed to see the French, they're doing like a reversal thing. Okay, like we're supposed to see the French settlers as the other, because they are not speaking English. So yeah, they were doing a thing with that. But yeah, just go all the way with it. Would have been interesting. Would have added to
yeah.
the realism of the movie.
I actually liked Dakota Beavers, the brother character. I thought he did great for his first role. I liked like the way he emoted through his face and his physical posturing and stuff. He has an awesome fight scene that I really loved. And
Yeah, he's
then
so graceful.
yeah, and especially Amber Midthunder. Like if she is not a star after this movie, I'm gonna be pissed because I think she like carries the whole movie on her back. Because you got to think like the first Predator had Arnold Schwarzenegger, so it's like you have to kind of live up to that, and she obviously brings a different energy. But I love her like scrappy, and she's not like uncapable. She's just extremely intelligent in the way she uses her tactics and her thought process of combat, where it seems like everyone else in the tribe is a little more, just like gung ho and like we're just gonna fight this thing hand to hand or face to face or whatever. And I like how her character is just so intelligent and plotting and planning things. And I think that's something that Arnold does in the first movie, right? Like he is a
Yeah,
you know, and that's kind of why he survived. So I feel like, even though I haven't seen the original, like I feel like his spirit is carried on through her by being this person who is planning, and I think that really works in the movie. But yeah, so Helen, what would you rate this movie out of 10?
Oh my goodness. I mean, at the end of the movie, I was like fist pumping and jumping up and down and being like, greatest thing I've ever seen. But now y'all kind of sobered me a little bit.
Oh,
So I guess, I mean, I just have such a soft spot for this kind of thing. This is like my exact kind of movie. So I'm going to give it a 9.
did we take you down from a 10?
Yeah, I was like jumping up and down, like 10 out of 10, greatest thing I've ever seen. Like I was
Nice.
so hyped last night because I had no expectations. This was news to me
yeah,
that this movie was made. And like I've already kind of been on a I'm a fan of Predator now journey this year anyway. And so I was like,
Yeah.
what? There's a new Predator movie and it's an almost all indigenous cast? So, take my money. Like, are you kidding me? So yeah, I just had a wonderful time. Yeah, I was a 10 out of 10 last night for sure.
and David, what would you give it out of 10?
I feel bad. I'm gonna give a 6 out of 10. It's like it's slightly more entertaining and interesting than the average movie of this genre. Like action movie. I mean, the original Predator, for comparison, is a 4 out of 10 to me because it was just the
dang.
boringness of it. It is a very boring movie up until like the last 30 minutes. So yeah, and super cheesy. But yeah, so 6 out of 10.
I would see. I was at a 6. I can't give it a 7. Like I've been trying to think of it as a 7, but it's a hard 6. Like it is a very solid movie. I just have a couple issues with it. But I will say, I think again the performances, the concept, like Helen said, like all these indigenous people like having their own narrative, their own story. Like I don't think anyone can take that away from this movie. And if you want that, like I totally satisfies that element, and it plays with it so well, and it represents all those people and their culture so well as well. And then it's just an interesting story where it's not really about that. Like it's a cool action movie just set in this time period. And I think this movie like became Hulu's like #1 watch movie within like 24 hours of all time on their service. So I'm hoping that brings a lot of success to everyone who made the movie. And then hopefully, I don't know, I would be super interested in seeing like a sequel to this, maybe with a bigger budget, and seeing what they could do. Like if they do it again with this tribe, or they do it in a different time period, or what have you. But for me, I think the limitations of the story, and then there are some like budget issues that I feel like the movie suffered with, like with CGI and other like small technical things like that. But overall,
yeah, the CGI animals did look really ugly. I will say that.
I kind of liked it, like in a weird way. I kind of liked it because it was all consistent, and like it didn't show any real animals in the movie. So it was like all these weird CGI animals. So I just kind of bought it. Like it's just like, oh, okay, this is like a land of of weird looking, awkwardly moving animals.
Before we head out, Helen, who would you recommend this movie to? Like, who do you think would like this kind of movie?
Oh man, anybody who likes action movies, anybody who's a fan of the Predator franchise, and actually, if you're kind of not into action movies, like don't really consider myself an action fan, but you want to see a woman kicking ass and taking names, which will get me. I'll be like a wet blanket about seeing an action movie. It's like, but there's a female main character, and I'll be like, all right, I'm there. Fine. And yeah, I mean, and just watch it, give it a shot, just for the representation. Not to be super woke, but like, it's a historic film in a lot of ways. I don't know, anybody who's even slightly inclined to just kind of an action romp, absolutely watch this.
And that's going to conclude our review portion of Prey. So if you don't want to be spoiled, you can pause the podcast now. And while you do that, don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, or comment on what you thought about the film or our takes on it. And you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or email us at cineverm@yahoo.com, and visit our website, cineverm.com, for our canon list and written reviews. And also check out my YouTube channel, A Lonely Critic, where I do solo reviews. And if you're into video game news, check out my other podcast, Headset Chat. And lastly, check out the Movies for Decades podcast, where Helen and her brothers Colin and John discuss films through the decades. But now, let's get into the spoilers. Where would y'all like to begin?
Oh, I have a thing. There is, the Bechdel test, where you you evaluate whether or not women speak to each other in movies. There is a similar test for Indigenous women called the Ayla Test, AILA.
Huh.
And this movie passes the Ayla Test. And here's what it is. Is there any, like just at all, an Indigenous woman who is a main character? Check.
Check.
And she does not fall in love with a white man. Check. Does not
I would have lost my shit if that happened. Oh
yeah,
God.
no. Okay, yeah. Does not end up raped or murdered at any point in the story. And listen, like that part when she was taken by the French the French
you were like,
cat,
oh no.
Like I was like, if she gets sexually assaulted right now, I am going to flip some tables, throw the TV out the window. I am going to step outside of myself and be beside myself for the rest of the week. Like, and then I was so relieved that she was okay. And so this passes the Ayla test. And I am so proud of this movie for doing that. It's almost like they were aware. Yeah. Maybe it's getting more into the discourse, and it should be.
Yeah. I think I brought it up earlier, but I think it totally helped having the producer who was actually from the Comanche tribe and present on set every single scene. Like I listened to an interview with her, and she was like, "Yeah, they'd say some dialogue. I'd walk up and be like, nope, changing it," and then like she just worked hand in hand with the director, and yeah, it sounds that's awesome that it passed that. But that brings up a interesting, well, my central problem with the movie. I really I think my rating of this movie would have been like an 8 out of 10 if the French people would have not been an element in the movie. Like I don't know why it pissed me off so much, because I thought, okay, this is going to be full-blown Comanche tribe. You know, we're just going to be experiencing their lives, and then this alien creature, you know, is being like a threat, and then, you know, tribe versus alien, and it was going to be that. And then when they added this whole French, you know, settlers or, you know, invader type thing, like I don't know why that just like really pissed me off, because we've had enough stories about like how, you know, they took over this place in this land of these people. Like I just wanted a film of these people with no notes of Europeans or whatever the hell. Like I just wanted it to be their story. Like did y'all feel that at all? Like it got really boring too, because it was so generic. It's like, I know, like there's just fat white people and like smoking whatever and guns, like I don't know. It really bothered me.
I don't know. I mean, it's historically accurate, though, for when it was set. I guess they would have had to have said it earlier, and it would have been, it would have been maybe more difficult to then have everything accurate, because we don't have as much records of what everything looked like earlier than this. So I think maybe that kind of had to be. And also, I found it kind of cathartic watching the Predator just murk all these stupid white people. Like,
It was a fun, corny, just like thing to do. Like, oh, look, these are the aliens as well. Like, oh, we've got a literal alien, and we've got these invading European aliens that are here.
I know, and also, another thing I have to say is the Predator is, you know, like Terminator and Alien. He's a horror, action, sci-fi monster that needs to have a big body count. He does a lot of killing, and it would have been kind of disturbing and depressing and maybe negated the representation if it had just been tons, and traumatic for Native peoples to watch, if it had just been tons of Native people getting slaughtered.
Yeah.
So there had to be slaughter in this movie. So good on them, actually, for slaughtering white people instead.
Yeah. I guess, okay, what I would have changed is maybe the alien lands and arrives on the French, like let's say the French people have a little thing where they're starting to build their settlement or whatever to encroach to the west or to the east or whatever to the Americas. Alien lands there and just slaughters them all, and then the Comanche people, you know, are trying to hunt this predator, and then they find, you know, all these people like gored to death. I think that would have maybe made it easier for me, but I don't know. It was just like the whole, like you were saying, like they capture her, they capture the brother, that whole sequence. Like I was like, oh my God, like I know exactly what they're gonna do, and then like now I know Alien's gonna kill them all. I don't know. It was just like very predictable. But you are right. Like it would have totally ruined the tone and the vibe of the movie if this predator was just going ham on these people. It would have been just kind of disgusting. Like, all right, what are you doing? So yeah, you're right.
That makes sense. I just love how they portrayed the French people as just so over the top, like ugly. They were just like literally like all the actors they picked had weird faces. They put, like, you could tell they put prosthetic teeth in like most of them. There was one especially they showed a lot that it was hilarious, like ugly prosthetic teeth, you know. And it's fun. I know it's like historically accurate probably. But it is also funny in a B movie kind of way to make it's like the like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the rednecks in that movie like are just so grotesque. You're just like, yeah, like they're the bad guys, you know. I also love the fake out that they did with the buffalo. Like that was a great, like clever, like fake out. Like, oh, okay, like the predator killed all these buffalo. Like how pointless, you know, how sad. And then you learn that obviously like it was the French settlers that killed all the buffalo, and you're like, oh yeah, there's another monster out there that was just slaughtering wildlife for no good reason besides to just to keep their skin. So that was a cool little fake out. with a thought behind it.
Somehow I knew immediately that was white people did that. I was like, that's not the Predator style.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, when you think about it, I was like, oh yeah, wait, he didn't like take their skulls. Like,
yeah, and also he didn't hunt prey animals. He only hunted predators.
right.
Yeah. So I guess I wanted to ask y'all, since both of y'all have experience with the Predator movie. So like, what is the general gist of this Predator? Like, he lands on the planet and then he just kills whatever predators that he finds, or is it like?
I mean, it's ambiguous, and maybe it's explained more in some of the other movies, but the two I've seen, besides this one, is just that they're a race of aliens that are super obsessed with hunting, and hunting for sport is like their ultimate honor and their ultimate thing that they do as a species. And yeah, like the Predators movie is a planet they have reserved as a hunting preserve, and they catch people and other things and drop them there and hunt them there. And so sometimes they do that, sometimes they go somewhere else and they collect trophies, and it just seems like a metaphor for like these people that are just big game sport hunters that have this like Hemingway kind of obsession with like murdering things. And that's their whole race's deal for some reason. And I'm not an expert.
Cause yeah, that's one thing I was wondering was like, so I was trying to think, all right, how could I rewrite this to where you have only the Comanche people and not just a slaughtering of them by this predator? And I was thinking, like, what if it was just the hunting group? Because the hunting group that went out, it was what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. Like, they all actually got killed in this movie. So what if it was just a hunting group? They were out for a hunt, and maybe you say, you know, they're hunting a lion. They find the lion dead, and they're like, oh, what the hell? And then that's when the predator comes down, and it would just be those same 5 deaths, but it would have been more drawn out to where it's more of a survival. Because I think there's like a book or something about some human guy hunting another human guy, and it's all like some literary
the most
piece.
dangerous game.
Yeah. And it would. That's what I thought this was going to have, that vibe, where it was just going to be her remaining, and then this predator in the jungle, and then them just outwitting each other, just trying
and that
to
was
survive the night.
basically the Arnie movie.
Yeah. I think that's why that would have been too similar to the original. I think is why they didn't do it that way.
I think that would have been so cool though. Because so this I forgot to mention in the review portion, but this director, this was like one of the reasons I was most excited, because this director directed 10 Cloverfield Lane. And I don't know if y'all watched that, but I thought that movie just handled suspense and tension so well. And it's like, you know, it's like this lady's in a bunker with John Goodman, and he's a creep and he's a weirdo, but like the way he films all that whole entire movie was just so beautiful. And that's what I thought I was going to get here, but with the predator in the woods with this Comanche warrior in the woods and them just going back and forth. But it didn't feel like that for me, unfortunately.
After being so bored by the original Predator, I was really glad that it had more aspects to it, like the French settlers and the original, you know, more of a setup. Like, okay, they're just going on a regular hunting trip, and I mean, you've got the mountain lion that's a threat, like kind of the first like action scene that's not related to the Predator, and I liked all of that.
Yeah, I liked the kind of parallel that like the Comanche sort of have the same philosophy as the Predator. Like, you take something worthy, you take something that's actually hard to kill, and then you're considered an official hunter now. And it's this very honorable, very respected and respectful, like, I respect this creature and therefore I'm going to kill it. And that, you know, that means something to me. And so it was very much them hunting each other for the same reason. Yeah. And I thought that was really, really cool, and something that the other Predator movies lack.
So off of that, what did y'all think about all the animal like scenes? So we have the lion, we have the bear. I guess we haven't talked about the bear scene. Like, what did you think about the bear scene, Helen?
It was super scary. Bears are terrifying. Very clever to hide in the beaver dam. Too bad it was not a very good beaver dam. I don't know. I mean, the CGI bear looked super ugly, but man, there's something about the sound of a bear roaring that is so scary. Maybe I've just played too much Skyrim, and been chased by too many bears in Skyrim, and so that roar just like makes the hair stand up on the back of my neck. But like, yeah, and then also Revenant was a movie that I saw in the theater and was super traumatized by that bear attack. So yeah, I mean, it was crazy how the predator literally showered in the bear's blood. Like,
I love that.
it was like so funny, like, but also so metal. Like, just start playing some death metal while he does that. Where's the supercut of that? I want it. Like,
and that was the cool thing is like you see the predator just like hand to hand combat this thing, and like there was no reason for that, but I think it added, like in my mind, this predator is a very young predator. Like he is not this like skilled precision, because he gets hurt like a ton.
Yeah, a lot.
Like he gets stabbed, shot. I mean, the bear, like I thought the bear was gonna kill him because it like mauls him for a second, and then he comes up and then just like punches him straight in the neck, and then they just go to town. And then I don't know what exactly he does. He like carves his stomach out while he's holding him up, and then his little mandible pokey things are just wiggling, I guess, like tasting the blood. I don't know. He goes crazy.
I wonder if how much the predator gets injured by animals is why some of the hardcore predator fans on Twitter are being huge babies about this movie. Have you noticed that like some people are like, oh, this isn't the predator I grew up with, and this is the stupidest looking predator I've ever seen, and the predator's just so not right. It's the worst predator movie because the predator is not the important part of it. And like just some very like bro-y assholes like acting like this predator is no good in some vague way. And I thought the design of the creature was really good. I kind of like how every single Predator movie, the design of the tech and the armor is slightly different, because it would be. Yeah. It's different time periods. It's different individuals. Like, don't have them all identical. Like, let each filmmaker and each art department kind of rethink it a little bit. And I thought this one looked fine. Like, and maybe the complaint is that he gets injured too much and he's not as scary and invincible as other Predators. I don't know.
Yeah, he was pretty scary. Scarier than the original, in my opinion. Like way scarier, because you see him doing more. Like you see him killing. Yeah, I guess it's the different variety of creatures, and the bear especially. You're just like, okay, like if he could do that to a bear, humans do not stand a chance. He kills people in such brutal ways, or even the coyote or the wolf that he kills. Like I love that. It shows him being way more threatening than the original movie, where you barely see him.
Yeah. And that's what the director said in an interview that I listened to, was like, I wanted this, predator to be, like this is his first time on Earth, and he's discovering like, all right, what's apex? And he's, trying to prove himself, because like you were saying, Helen, like in the Predator alien world or whatever, this is how they prove themselves and become adults, or get whatever honor in their societies, by going, conquering, coming back with whatever skulls and proving their worth or value. And I really felt that. And then by the tech, he said like, all right, well, takes place 300 years before the first Predator, or however many years. Is it 300? Did I say? Oh yeah,
the
300
other one was
years.
set in Vietnam, so
yeah,
I don't know. I could do specific math, but I won't.
300 years earlier. So, like, of course, the Predator tech would be also 300 years earlier as well. But yeah, like you were saying, I think the design is beautiful. Like the little helmet that looks like a bone with like some weird skin on it just looked beautiful. Like the way his body was shaped. I love how it's like an actual person in the suit. I guess that the original Predator was too, but like I love the physicality that the actor brought to that, which is the Dane DeLigro guy.
Yeah, he's an ex-basketball player that just basically got hired for being huge, and he did a great job.
I guess one other thing we got to talk about is I guess like with the whole tribe stuff. Like, what did you think about the intro and the beginning, and like how they set up the I guess their little settlement, and like how there was like this cool shot where we're just following her and you were seeing all the tribes people, working on whatever task or assignments that they had. Like, what did you think about all that?
I mean, yeah, I felt like I was getting to actually walk around and see and experience what life was like. It felt almost like a documentary for a second. I did stop immediately on the very opening shot and be like, did they sleep in their war paint? Or is she just lazy?
Yeah, that's true.
Like, is this supposed to be telling me that she's like kind of a lazy, bratty teenager who just falls down dead in the bed and never washes her face? Or is this like customary? And that question was never answered for me. But whatever. It's going to be hard to sleep with the Dayglow Predator blood paint on your face.
Yeah.
The, glow stick juice blood.
Glow stick juice. Yeah.
But anyway, that was my only comment about the opening. I was in awe. Like, here it is. And I did frantically Google, did the Comanche use teepees? But of course they did. They had a good consultant on this movie.
Yeah.
But that's one problem with Native American representation is they just kind of all tribes are represented as having teepees.
Yeah.
And that's not true at all. It was, certain tribes and mostly out in the plains. And it's kind of weird that we associate teepees with all Indians. But yes, Comanches had teepees. I don't know. Yeah. Like I started to want to follow along and Google every little detail to make sure it was accurate. But then I just started trusting the movie after that intro. Like, I think that this is just going to be accurate and I should just pay attention and let it wash over me.
I was gonna say, what about the? As far as like, I'm assuming that the most that it deviates from accuracy is just in what they allowed the main character to do. Because
I think the Comanche had female warriors. I think they did.
Okay, well,
because they were like renowned for being terrifying. Like one of the most you don't fuck with them tribes of all the tribes. So you would think that they would be. Like, maybe it wasn't common, but I think even that was realistic. But I liked kind of the hazing she was getting and kind of the...
that was
who the hell do you think you are, little girl, kind of crap. That if that ain't just true everywhere.
The scene where they just beat her up was really interesting.
Yeah, well, it was like she just has to fight with the boys because that's how they solve their problems. They get in a fist fight. And she handed him his ass until the other guy cheated. Yeah.
It's surprisingly brutal, yeah. I was like surprised by that scene. For sure.
What did y'all think about her actual action sequences? Early on in the film, I think she's hunting a deer, and then she I thought it was the coolest shit ever. I don't know if this is possible in real life or not, but it looked amazing in the film where she would just slide on the ground, like she was doing some video game slide,
or
she would
baseballs
jump off
sliding
trees.
To home slides.
And the bouncing off of trees was hilarious. And it looked cool. That's all that mattered.
I loved the throwing axe that she then attached a rope to, that tomahawk hatchet, and how accurate she was with it. And oh man, what a perfect weapon of choice. Loved it.
There was a really great scene later in the movie when she was fighting the French. The last of the French settlers.
Yes.
That was the best action scene. That really stuck out to me because it was all, how we've complained about one-shot things on this podcast, but that was a really good, in my opinion, really, really good one-shot fight scene. I did not detect anything that felt awkward or anything. The Northman had a lot of those moments, but maybe they just did a bunch of takes and really choreographed it. But it was really good. And I was like, what am I watching? John Wick? This is really well choreographed fight scene. That still looked badass.
There was a John Wick moment in this movie where she was saving her dog.
Yeah. I thought their dog was going to die at some point. I was like, this is going to be John. The dog's got to die.
10 out of 10, the dog survived. Yes, I love it. I love to see it. I hate it when the dog dies. Dog peril is one of my greatest deal breakers in all of cinema. And that good boy survived, and I'm so happy.
And he helped too during scenes. I noticed he was a great help during some scenes.
Yes.
fighting the predator. He saved her life at one point, distracting the predator. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, like I'm kind of okay that the brother died because at least the dog survived. It's like somebody has to pull it. Yeah, somebody has to pull at our heartstrings. They have to
Right.
kill someone that we care about. So it's like going to be either the dog or the brother. And I was like, good choice, movie. Good choice. Kill the brother.
Fun information about the dog in this movie, and I think you'll like this, Helen, because I've never thought about this, but this I think is pretty awesome. So the filmmakers, they didn't want to use just a normal, actor dog. If they were going to get a dog, they wanted to get a dog from a shelter and then just train the dog up, and then the dog would be rescued because someone would keep him after the shoot.
Whoa.
And they wanted this dog in particular, but then it got rescued by someone else, and then they're like, oh no, but then that person brought it back because they didn't want the dog. And then this was like a week before shooting, so they didn't have the time to actually train the dog. And then a lot of the cast were like, yeah, the dog was just always ruining shots and running around. And when I rewatched it the second time in the Comanche, I was kind of like noticing the end of scenes where the dog would like run away, and you can tell the dog like does his action, and then like when he's kind of off screen or like running like towards the end of the frame or whatever, you could see him just biting into like random stuff and people like trying to grab him. So I just imagined it was just like,
oh, that's amazing. He did pretty well, but yeah, I hear it's excruciating to film with dogs because the littlest sound will distract them. And to get them to look a certain direction and keep looking that direction is just an absolute nightmare. So yeah, I can imagine. But I loved the look of the dog too. That's amazing that this was just some random mutt that was rescued, because it really looked like the kind of, even that seemed accurate. Like it looked kind of dingo-y feral dog, like one of those Carolina dogs that are kind of wild and feral in America. Like he kind of looked like that. I was like, did they like spend a ton of money to get like an authentic feral dog and train it for this movie? Like, hell, wow. But it was just a mutt from a shelter. That's amazing. And even he looked super accurate to the time period. Yeah. Wow.
And then the other thing about the one shot was in an interview I heard that he actually choreographed that whole thing to be shot like traditionally, like with different takes or whatever. And they were so behind on filming, they were like, we can't do all that coverage. Like we can't set up all these shots for this action sequence. Wow. We're going to have to do a oneer. And they knocked that out in one day. So that was like we can't do anything else. And
because the dog cost us so much time.
And it looks amazing. And I don't know if this was just because of the rushed nature of it, but I do love, like, when I was rewatching that oneer again, like, I love how the camera isn't precise and perfect. Like, there's moments where she's doing an action and she leaves the frame, and then it takes a second for the camera to, like, follow her back. And it adds this, like, chaotic movement that feels really natural and organic. And, yeah, I loved it. And then, the throwing axe is just insane. But I do wonder, like, I couldn't, like, I was trying to, like, see if I could capture it or like notice if it was a real axe that she had or if like it was CGI, because I was thinking like, how do you, like, realistically, if you had an axe with a rope, when you pulled it back, like, wouldn't there be a real danger of it just stabbing you? Like, if you don't, like, what if the handle wasn't where your hand is, it's the axe part?
Yeah, I'm assuming it was CGI.
It looked great. Like, even me trying to like nitpick, I couldn't see any flaws in that, so that part of the CGI was flawless.
And just more weapons talk. It was very cool that they showed the actual way you carry and store and use a bow. Like you do take the string off when you're not using it and then string it when you use it. And so every other movie I've seen, they're walking along with strung bows, and that's not what you do. Oh, so again, great job movie. 10 out of 10. I'm going back.
Do you think that anyone would even attempt to kill a bear with a bow and arrow though? I was wondering that. I was like, is that, I mean, I know that the chances of that are probably
she seemed like she
very
super
low.
Regretted it. Like as soon as she let that arrow go, she was like, oh no, I've just pissed it off. I have made a mistake.
That ain't gonna work. Yeah. No,
Like
that is
I need a
not gonna
spear
work.
for this guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I just thought that was funny. I got a chuckle out of
Yeah.
that. It's like, ah, that bear
Yeah.
is not even feeling that.
Yeah.
What did y'all think about the actual predator kills? Like the gadgets and the little things that he had, doodalls and gadgets. Like specifically in that scene where the brother and sister like tied up to that pole used as bait, which was so funny that the French were like, all right, we're gonna use them as bait, but in reality the predator didn't care about them and was just going
Hmm.
around slaughtering all of them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
What did y'all think about that sequence and the kills?
I mean, they
man,
were
it
cool.
was great. Yeah,
I
yeah. I like his
mean,
shield. That
Oh
really
yeah.
that was a highlight. His cool
his
Aztec warrior
fancy
looking
fan.
shield. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a huge nerd about that kind of thing. It all looked cool to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and it was unique. I think it was similar enough to other Predator weapons while also introducing new ones that,
Yeah.
yeah, I liked it.
My favorite kill, and I thought this was just badass. Like even when I rewatched it, I was like, "Oh, this is fucking cool." It was like this weird net grenade thingy, and then like it would net
Oh yeah.
down, and it had this guy in like a log or whatever, and then the camera just goes
Yes.
down, and then you just see the pieces of the log that are just drenched with like blood because it's just squeezing and cutting them into little chunks, and I
Yeah.
was like, "Wow, that
Oh,
is
yeah.
gnarly." And very
Yeah.
creative. And then that's another thing that I really liked about the movie was like uh the director and the cinematographer, like they really decide to like not show the most gory parts. Like they show, like a stab, but they never really show the actual like final blow to a lot of people. But like in your
Hmm.
mind, you imagine it because you saw the
Yeah.
initiating incident. But like when I was watching back, I was like, yeah, you never really see him like rip the whole skull out. The camera pans away and you just see the after effects after it's done. So I thought that was really smart and how they
That's a
filmed
good
Yeah.
it.
point.
I think my favorite kill was the fountain of blood in the field from a very far distance. I think it
Yeah.
was the guy
Yeah.
that
It's just
she
slashing. Yeah.
found. Yeah, it just looked. It was like this, Sam Raimi like just geyser.
Yeah.
I laughed. I definitely was. That was. I think that was my favorite. If we're talking
Yeah, because
favorite kills,
I never thought about that, but that is true. They didn't really. It is a cool example. Like they make you feel like you see everything, but if you watched it back, all the shots are either from a distance or a little bit to the side, or like my favorite. One of my favorite early moments was when he killed the wolf or coyote or whatever, and he like it's a real close up of the coyote, and then him just like ripping the spine out
Hmm.
of
Yeah.
it, and you know what's happening, and you sort of see it, but not really. But the sound effects are so good
Yep.
that it's like I was like, whoa, man, that's gory, but like not actually gory. So yeah, they did a good
Yeah.
job.
What did y'all think about his like cloaking transparent abilities? Was this better or worse than any of the other Predator movies? Like is that how he looks when he goes incognito?
I
yeah.
mean, obviously it's better CGI in this one,
Yeah.
a lot better, but
I don't know. I guess because the first one and the Predators movie that I've seen, it was very much deep jungle.
Hmm.
So he seemed more invisible and elusive just
Yeah.
because of how dense everything was. And here he seemed really easy to find because he
Yeah.
was out in the open a lot and he was in, the kind of open forest of the American West
Yeah.
where, there's not just vines and blowing leaves everywhere. So and I don't think that was like they made him easier to see. I think the environment he was in was easier to find his shape.
I imagine like in the edit that would be something I think I would break my head against the wall over. It's like how transparent do I make this thing? How like because it would I don't know. I just feel like I would lose my mind because that seems like a very difficult choice, and I think they nailed a perfect balance here. But one of the final things, I guess, unless y'all have something else, what did y'all think about like the final death of the Predator and how what was her name? Naru accomplished her task by defeating the Predator.
I loved it because it was such a cool twist on the original Predator death in the Arnie movie, which, Anthony, you haven't seen that, right? So should I spoil
Mm-mm.
it for you?
Yeah, you can go ahead. I think I heard someone say something about mud and logs or
Yeah.
falling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Arnold covered himself in mud so that he would be cold, so that the
Mm.
Predator couldn't see him. and then set this elaborate trap to kill him. And this time she didn't use the mud. And when she fell in the mud, I was like, oh, here it is. She found the mud pit that she's going to be caked in mud later, and the predator's not going to see her, and it's going to be a straight up send up to the Arnie movie. And then it reversed it. Like, she trapped him and she coated the predator in mud. And that, I just thought that was great. I thought that was super, super clever and like a nice little nod to the original, but while still being its own thing.
That reminds me of one of the other little nitpicks I have. And maybe I'm wrong, but like she uses like whatever, it was like this orange flower that cools their blood. Is that based on any
I was going to bring that
reality?
up at some point.
I don't think so. I don't know. That seemed like a total sci-fi element, a tool for the story. I don't know of anything that does that. I could be wrong, but that just, that seemed like a convenient story element, piece of the puzzle.
Just a different way to cool your body temperature than mud. But it's like, wouldn't that put you in like a coma if that were a thing? Like, if it's cooling your body temperature to such a...
and I was like, how exactly does it cool? Does it just slow your heart down so much? And like, so how can you function?
Yeah, and the other people that when she stuffed it into other people's mouths, it's like they were like going into, like a coma.
But I mean, they did tell her, like, when she first did it, like, that will kill him. That's too high a dose. And she was like, shut up, I know what I'm doing. So she probably dosed herself with, like, as little as she could. Yeah.
I was just surprised, like, how believable they made it that she could kill him at the end. Like, I just thought it was really a good, what do you call that? Progression of weakening him, of how he got injured. Like, one guy injured him, in a previous scene, and then, like, another guy injured him, and, like, he killed some guys, but then they injured him a little bit, and then, it made sense. Like, it actually made sense, because I was like, how... Early on in the movie, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to believe that she is able to kill him. But, they did it in a good... like progressively weakening him to where I wasn't really surprised or like thrown off by the time she finishes him off. Like, oh, okay, that made sense, and it was logical. And the predator didn't do anything stupid. He was just like overwhelmed,
Well, I mean, not even Arnold Schwarzenegger can win in a strength contest against the predator. Like,
right?
You have to outsmart them. That's the only way. And she proved so many times how smart and observant she was and how resourceful she was. So no, I was like, this thing's going to not know what hit him when she gets to him. Like, I had confidence in her the whole time, because it's never about, in Predator movies, it's never about brawn. It's always about brains. Yeah, loved it.
So did y'all like the final... like the actual final blow that was like, I guess his helmet had the like laser pointer thing. So I guess the little shooting projectiles, like those are, laser guided is what essentially was happening, right? Okay.
Yes. And she set it up just perfect for that shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's lucky that his head was lined up. I didn't really realize that. I mean, I thought he would have to activate the guidance system. And since he didn't have the helmet, I was like, okay, how did it turn on in the first place? Like, I guess when you just use the gun, but like he seemed very confidently to be pointing it at her, like he expected it to go straight. I don't know, is it like Bluetooth where it's close enough to the thing that it connected and he didn't expect it?
I don't know.
Man, that happens to me all the time. I guess it was just a Bluetooth fail.
I mean, it is a cool shot, but I do wish maybe it would have just been like her throwing axe. It would have just hit him in the center of the head or something, like,
or an arrow,
Yeah, like, I don't know. I wish it was something she pulled, like her physically into him.
Yeah, I wonder if those things would have been strong enough to penetrate his skull, though. Like, you kind of have to use his weapons against him because they can actually pierce him.
Oh, man. Or what if she could have grabbed one of those metal rods, pulled it on her bow, and bloop. So it's like
that would
high-tech,
cool.
low-tech connection.
Yeah, that would have been super cool.
Yeah. And then I guess one final thing, like, I do wish the brother-sister element was a little more pushed. I mean, there wasn't enough time because this movie is really fast-paced.
Yeah.
But in my dream version, where there is no French people, it would have been more her and her brother trying to outwit this thing, and the brother, being arrogant about how he needs to fight it, face to face, and then maybe she can be like, no, we need to like figure out what it does, and we need to like flank it or out tactic it, and then he dies or whatever. But so that's one of the like one emotional things that I wish was like a little more discovered, because I think what they had in here was so cool. Like I liked their relationship and how that all played out. So I just wanted more of it. Like this is one of those movies where it is like to the point, but then I'm also like, damn, I could easily take more of this right now.
Yeah, I mean, I loved the brother-sister element. I loved that it wasn't a love interest, that it was her brother.
Yeah.
And I'm just a fan of any sibling team-up ever, because I'm a fan of my own siblings. We're besties, and so I like to see representation of siblings that are besties in movies. It just warms my heart. So, yeah, I would have liked more of her and her brother as well.
So, is this film canon to y'all? Any canons? Any form of canon? Predator canon?
Yeah. Predator canon for sure.
Comanche canon.
Indigenous cast canon. Even, like just action movie canon. It was fun as heck. Like, I'm not a big fan of action movies, and I was like, shitting all through it, like like an 11-year-old boy. Like, I had a great freaking time. Like, but it's not a Cineverm canon. I can't say that.
No. I mean, if someone had to only watch one Predator movie, maybe this one. I would honestly recommend this one more than the original. For someone who hasn't seen any of them.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and I was looking on Hulu, and all the Predator movies are on there, and I was like, interesting. Yeah, so I think I started with the right one first, so...
yeah, definitely.
That's going to conclude this episode of Cineverm. So thank you for listening so much. And we would be grateful and humbled if you could leave us a review or rating with your thoughts or comments on Apple Podcast or Spotify. And if you could share us with your friends or family, as that helps us in our journey to spread the love of cinema. And we'll see you next week.
Bye.
See ya.